right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I want to talk about is kind of this little miniature Arnold Classic that we're getting a couple weeks after the Olympia. So far in October, it looks like we're going to be getting three pretty big shows. You've got the Arnold Classic UK, which is going to be this weekend. You've got the Olympia, which is the week after. And then on October 22nd to October 24th, so I think a week or two after the Olympia, you got this Legion Sports Festival, where they will be having a men's open bodybuilding show. Now, the first part of this story is that Cedric McMillan, who was going to compete at the Arnold Classic, but was unable to, is apparently confirmed to be competing in this Legion Sports Fest in just a couple of weeks now. So a guy that we could have gotten to see at the Arnold, we could have gotten to see at the Olympia, but we're going to see at neither of those shows, is only doing this Legion show. Now, that's going to be interesting. Because keep in mind, when Cedric officially withdrew from the Arnold Classic lineup, the reason was injury. So I'm wondering what's going to be different. I guess there's really just like a month separating these two shows, a month between the Arnold and this Legion show. What's going to be different for Cedric and his injury, and how far will that set back his physique? And the reason why I say this is going to be a miniature Arnold Classic is because another guy that's in this lineup is a guy that didn't qualify for the Olympia at the Arnold Classic, but wanted to, and that was Sergio Oliva Jr. So Sergio, it looks like, is going to be continuing his prep. He was the first guy that announced he was doing this Legion show. So Sergio is going to be prepping into that show. Another guy from the Arnold Classic. In addition to Sergio, Max Charles also announced that he will be doing this Legion Sports Festival. So right there, you've got three high-level bodybuilders that kind of missed out on the 2021 Mr. Olympia, and this is their opportunity to qualify for 2022. So that's really what's up for grabs, because the Olympia is done. The Olympia qualified list is done. There is nothing else that anybody can do to qualify for the Olympia this year. Who's going to be there is who's going to be there. But I think it's cool that we kind of unexpectedly get this pretty competitive show. And again, those are just three names. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Steve Kuklo jump in that lineup at this Legion show. But we're going to have three shows. So the other show that we're going to talk about is the Arnold Classic UK, which is this weekend. The beginning of October, we're starting out with this Arnold Classic UK. Now, to be honest, I hadn't really heard of any big names that are doing the show, but we do have an official competitor list that was released by the promoters recently. So here is your list. Gabor Barrick, Jamie Christian Jahal, which is a.k.a. The Giant, Roberto Bonomo, Joe Seaman, Christian Wolski, Cuba Keelan, Ole Christian Vaga, Marek Olejniczak, Patrick Johnson, Samson Dauda, Theo Laguerrier, Nathan Diasha, and Tim Budashim. So the three that really stand out to me in this lineup are Samson, Nathan, and Tim. And in all reality, after what we saw from Nathan Diasha, the way that he beat Roelly Winkler at that Europa Spain show, I would say that he is definitely the solid favorite in this show. I really think this is going to be Nathan's show to lose. I think he's going to win this show. But the only way he loses this, I think, is if he comes in significantly off. And that's kind of something else that I want to talk about here, and we're going to get into the Olympia qualified list next. But I hope that Nathan has a plan to get to the States, because he is qualified for the Olympia. That NPC, or that Europa Spain show, qualified him for the O this year. So this Arnold show is for next year's Olympia qualification. So that's really what he's going for. And keep in mind what we just saw happen with William Bonac. He was unable to get to the country in time to compete in the Arnold, but he will supposedly be able to get to the country in time to compete in the Olympia. Now, that's probably the reason why you don't see a super competitive lineup here, because most of the guys in the Olympia are in the United States right now. They're already here. They're making sure that they're going to be able to compete at the Olympia. So I don't know if Nathan is skipping this year's Olympia, if he's planning on sitting this one out and going to the next one. But if I were a pro bodybuilder right now, my priority after seeing what happened to William Bonac is, if I'm in the Olympia, I'm going to be in the United States already. If I'm already qualified, knowing what's going on with these travel restrictions, with the pandemic, I would do whatever I can to get into the States weeks ahead of time. And my worry here is, if Nathan is doing this show this weekend in the UK, hopefully he doesn't wait too long to get to the US if he does intend on doing the Olympia. But that's the Arnold Classic UK Men's Open Bodybuilding lineup for this weekend. Now, let's get into the 2021 qualified competitors list for the Mr. Olympia. There are 19 qualified competitors. And again, the caveat that they've got at the top, or the subtitle, I guess you could call it, is that not every name on this list, just because you're on this list, does not mean you're actually doing the show. This list is just the guys that can do the show. The list of guys that are actually doing the show will come out when they come out with the official scorecards, like the week of the show. So you've got William Bonac, Hadi Chupin, Brandon Curry, Nathan Diasha, Big Ramy, Regan Grimes, Phil Heath, who we know is not doing it, James Hollingshead, Hunter Labrada, Patrick Moore, Hassan Mustafa, Andre Presti, Justin Rodriguez, Mohamed Shaban, Vladislav Sharutcho from the Ukraine, Ian Valier, Nicholas Walker, Akeem Williams, and Roelly Winkler. So this is the most up-to-date list after the Arnold, and I believe this also includes the point standings as well. The top 3 in point standings get to go to the Olympia, because you see Hassan Mustafa, you see Mohamed Shaban on this list. Those are 2 guys that we know did not win a show, so they qualified on points. So this is the complete list of everybody that can do the Olympia. And even though it's 19 names, you're probably not going to see all 19 on the Olympia stage. Now, I will probably this weekend be doing my Olympia prediction videos, just for fun, of course. And those will be based off of this list, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to catch that Olympia predictions video and tell me how wrong I was after the video, because that's the fun part. Now, next up in the news, Roelly Winkler posting on his Instagram story that he's sitting in an airplane. He's on a flight right now, or at the time that I recorded this video, or the time that he posted this story, he was on a flight, and I'm hoping and praying that that flight is to the United States, to Orlando, to Florida, to compete at the Olympia next week. It's crazy that we're saying this already, but next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend is the Olympia competition. And just like what I said with Nathan, if I were one of these guys that's qualified for the Olympia, you know you can be there, you want to be there, it's the biggest night of your career for the year, you got to make sure you're going to be there. So I'm hoping that Roelly right now is flying to the States to do the Olympia. We haven't really seen many updates of him. He really never did officially acknowledge that he was out of the Arnold Classic. He just kind of didn't do it. Like, he didn't put like a formal post on his social media saying he was out. And he hasn't really posted about the Olympia much either. So I don't know if mentally that second place placing to Nathan Diasha at that Europa Spain, if that was like mentally draining for him enough to where he doesn't want to compete for the rest of the year and he kind of goes back to the drawing board to focus on maybe even next year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is Roelly Winkler done? Is his time over? Is he going to skip the Olympia? And if he does do the Olympia, where do you think he will place? I mean, some guys, if you look at it, Roelly got there off of a second place finish. I know some bodybuilders would refuse to go to the Olympia unless they won a show, because the Olympia is for the best in the world. So if you can't win a show outside of the Olympia, what's the argument that you can win the Olympia? That's how a lot of pro bodybuilders feel. So maybe Roelly feels that same way. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Now, speaking of qualified Olympia competitors, Larry Wheels did a little bit of posing, a little bit of training with a qualified Olympian, and that was Andre Presti. We just saw his name on that qualified list moments ago. Larry, I really do think, is getting ready for something in bodybuilding. He's been hinting at it. He's been posting these physique updates, these posing videos. He did compete back in 2018 at NPC Nationals. I personally would like to see Larry make a run at getting a pro card. I mean, look, he's a taller guy. He's got some injuries. He's not going to have the prettiest physique. But just imagine if Larry were able somehow to get an IFBB pro card and compete at a show where there's some big names, just to have Larry Wheels in that lineup. Now, I know this is a super far reach. This is a stretch way down the line. If Larry could even turn pro is probably the bigger question. But imagine the hype if Larry were able to get to the pro stage and compete against some of these top guys right now. Larry Wheels versus Nick Walker. If you want viral, that's viral. But like I said, Larry's had some injuries. He's a taller guy, maybe not the most bodybuilding-centric physique. It would take a lot of work, a lot of development on his actual physique, particularly his lower body, and just a lot of filling out that taller, lankier frame in general, and then overcoming the imbalances from the injuries. It would be a lot. But we can only dream, right? Larry Wheels on a pro stage, on the Arnold stage, something like that would be just so entertaining. And if I were Larry Wheels, that would be something I would pursue. He's already dominated powerlifting, arm wrestling, strongman. He's done it all. Imagine the virality of his videos if he were to get an IFBB pro card and compete against some of these guys, even if he didn't do well and there was no chance he was going to beat him, just to see Larry Wheels' name on a Arnold Classic lineup list as a wild card. Or what if he goes the classic physique route? He is a taller guy, and classic physique seems to have been favoring the taller guys lately. How cool would that be? Larry Wheels versus Chris Bumstead. And the final story that I have for you guys today, one more clap back from Nick Walker towards Chad Nichols, Big Ramy, Dennis James, the winter camp. He posted up this story on his Instagram, and he says, those traveling to Orlando next weekend, I highly suggest wearing a tank top only. It's about to get extra hot. The inverse of what Chad Nichols posted about wearing a coat to Orlando because it's going to be so cold, of course, because winter is coming. But that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Remember to hit that like button. It's free. It's easy. It's simple. It takes but a moment of your time, and it means the absolute world to me and, more importantly, the algorithm. So, as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Leave a comment down below. Nick Strength and Power signing out.